Hello everybody, this is Ro. Welcome to the Tequila Princess channel. Today is story time. I will be sharing with you the story of how I switched from graphic designer to stewardess or flight attendant, as you may know it. Everything started when I was very young because since very early I knew that I wanted to be a graphic designer. Well, I didn't know what that was, but I knew what I wanted to do, and later on I found out that it was called graphic design. So I was probably 7 years old, and there was on TV this show about this lady that was called Cositas, little things. Those were these tiny capsules about how to draw something or how to make arts and crafts or small do-it-yourself projects for children, and I loved it. It was like I knew that I wanted to draw and create things with colors and textures and paper and I don't know, things like that. Whenever someone asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always answered, cositas. It's super childish, I know, and it was super cute, I think. So when I got a little bit older, I was 12 or 13, I think, my sister had this friend that was gonna study graphic design, and she started telling me what it was. Very roughly, creating and designing any kind of 2D things that you can think of. Logos, publicity, illustration, printing on packaging, books and stuff like that. And I was like, that's what I want. I finally know the name of the major that I have to study. Since then, I just knew what I wanted. I never had to pass through this stage in life where you have no clue what you want to do. I remember I saw many of my classmates struggling to find out what to study. They were like, I like photography, but then I like building and I like traveling and I would like to be a lawyer, but then philosophy and then this and that. And like, I could see that most of my friends were super confused about what to study. And that just never happened to me. For me, it is graphic design. There is no other option. I felt really proud of myself because I already knew what I wanted. I remember once I met someone who told me that graphic design was not a major, that you didn't have a degree at the end, that it was only a technical career, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe that. I wanted a degree. I wanted to give my parents the pride of saying to finish university. I was so confused. I just didn't know what to do because that was like my dream forever. I started considering other careers, and psychology was the one that called me the most, although I was not really sure that I wanted to do that. And later, I actually found out that that was something that you could study at that university and that you would actually get a degree, and I was like, thank God, because that's what I want. Also, I was obsessed with this one school that I wanted to go to because once when I was very young, I heard that that was one of the top 5 universities in the country, and I was like, I want to go there. At that time, of course, I didn't know about money and tuition and expenses and stuff. I was very young. So when I was about to finish high school, I started doing some research, but only on this university because I wanted to go there. I think I was very strong-headed about it, stubborn, and I didn't even consider other options, you know. I just wanted to study that in that school. That's it. I did some research and I found out that it might not be as easy as I thought because it was very expensive. And I was lucky enough to get a scholarship. So I think I was very lucky because I got in the major that I wanted, in the school that I wanted, in my first try, my only try. Let's also emphasize, because I didn't apply for any other university. I felt so good because I was like making my dream come true. That was super cool. When I was studying graphic design, I did realize that it was probably not exactly what I was thinking it was, but at the same time it was better in a different way. I had always been kind of nerdy, so when I was studying at university, I was super focused on my major. I didn't go to parties and I didn't like to waste my time doing all the things that were not conferences or maybe going searching books. I still actually have a few of the books that I bought in that time. All my free time was just focused on my major. In retrospective, I don't know if I regret it or not because I was good. I don't mean that I was a genius, although I am friends with a genius from my major. I mean, I was one of the top of my generation, and everybody will come to me and ask me how to do things or my opinion on this or that. Not only me, of course. Actually, my best friend in university was super great designer too. In time, she was the art editor of El Magazine in Mexico. So yeah, she is good. But I missed the social part of university, which is also a big part of university. In a major like graphic design, contacts are the one thing that it's gonna make a difference in between finding a okay job and a good job. I didn't focus enough on that part. That is probably the only part that I really regret about, because other way I was just focused on what I wanted and I was good, as I said, so it was paying off. Studying graphic design is so much more than just learning how to draw and how to apply color. You don't need to be a huge artist because design is not about being artsy. Design is about knowledge. Learn what your client needs, not what they want, what they need. And then mix it up a little bit with what they like, what they want, and throw in a lot of what their target public likes. And with all that together, you will get a successful design. Or at least that's how I see it. It was very interesting to learn so many things that were not about being handy or being natural at it, but to develop a certain process, to develop a certain technique, and get the knowledge that you needed for that. And all together, you could be better than someone that was a natural for it. One of my favorite classes, I think, was spatial geometry. I didn't even know what that was before I studied, but I loved it. I also suffered a lot with that because that particular subject left me so many nights without sleep. I remember during my third semester, I only slept 15 minutes in 3 days. Crazy. I don't even know how I managed to stay awake. It was craziness, but I had to finish that project. Spatial geometry is learning how to create a geometric figure in space. Do you remember when you were a child and you could buy these pieces of paper that had the diagram of something that if you cut it, fold it, and glue it, it will turn into a cube? Do you remember one of those? Well, you had to learn how to do that for any kind of shape. We made a teapot once, we made a shoe, and then we were creating this perspective with lines and dots that you could trace in a gigantic piece of paper. And there was a point where you had like the 2 perspective points that you have to use. And then you had, I remember we made a bathroom and you had a whole room of represented items that were just dots in space that you had to find where they were in this image and trace them and, you know, like make them pop up. It was crazy. I remember my dad is a civil engineer, and one night I was working, it was past midnight for sure, and I was working in this special table for drawing. I don't know the name for that in English. In Spanish is respirador. I was working on that with these, I would say easily 1,000 super thin lines connecting on space and marking different dots until I could trace them to create toilet paper, the sink, and the shower, and like everything. And my dad approached from behind, and he was looking, you know, like just checking what I was doing. And he just saw so many lines, and he asked me, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this bathroom. It's can you see? Here is this, and there is that." And I saw his face. He was like, No, I don't see it. He was used to working with footprints where you have tons of lines, but for him were less lines, more spaced and kind of clear. So when he approached and tried to see what I was doing, was like, I don't understand. It was fun how you could make something appear out of a bunch of lines that looked like chaos. So for me, it was like bringing order to chaos. It was super interesting. And the teacher that we had was super strict, but she was great. Everything she explained was crystal clear, no doubts. You knew exactly what to do and how to do it. Problem is that everything that you have to do was like taking days to finish. I sacrificed a lot of parties and time out. It was not only a matter of responsibility, although I was very responsible. It was that I really wanted to see that project finish. It was cool. I liked it. The hardest part about studying graphic design, I think it was that it's so vast. There is like so many things to learn that you cannot get an idea of how you will integrate all of that into your job, because there is too many branches of graphic design and I wasn't sure which one I wanted to choose. Most of us didn't know because we only studied each branch probably one semester, not in full depth. I think we were missing a little bit of that, and you were supposed to choose that you were good at. But if you only took one semester of each different thing, how could you know if you were super good at that or super good at the other if you were just learning all of them? I remember I didn't like editorial that much, so I knew that I didn't want to do that. It looked boring. But the problem is that I did not know what I really wanted to do. Publicity? Maybe. Illustration? Probably. Typographer? Oof, that was so appealing. You also had all these other kind of options that we didn't even knew exactly how. Like the graphic part of the packaging was also super cool. And then you had textile, probably. We didn't even cover that. Or animation, like 2D animation. There were just so many things that I was interested in. But I think that the one that was my most appealing one would be the corporate design. But I still was not sure about it. So it was so confusing. And I think for me, the hardest part of studying graphic design was that for the first time in my life, I experienced confusion about my career focus. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and that was a first, because I told you, since I was very little, I already knew what I wanted to study. It was just hard. At the end, you were supposed to work on your graduation project, choose something that you thought you were gonna be working at or focusing on when you finally got a job. So I chose corporate design first. I was supposed to complete 1 year with that project for the graduation final test. So 6 months later, I decided to switch for a signpost design of a small shopping mall. So I ended up doing 2 graduation projects, and during my final test, one of the judges actually thought that I was already working on a graphic design bureau and that I got help because my designs were so good that she couldn't believe that a student would make them by herself. And I have to had one of the other judges defending me because she was sure that I didn't do it, but I did. I was so proud of myself by that time because they confused my work with a professional work. Oh, quick mention, there is in Mexico a national design contest that is called Quorum. During our 3rd year of the major, my friend and I, we decided to send one of our designs, one that we did in a teamwork, to this competition. There is 2 sections, professional designers and students, and we were the 2nd place of the category of editorial design with a postcard. And the funny part is that year there was no Quorum award. There was only silver mention, which is the 2nd place, and 3rd place, but there was no 1st place. So we were the best. That year we were the best. I am very proud of those results. It was amazing. That made me feel like I was doing it right. And then what happened? I know. What happened? Why I never worked at it. Well, life is weird and funny. I was called by one of the biggest newspapers in Mexico to incorporate in the team of a new section that they were going to be doing weekly. And of course, I was not the only person that they called, but I was running for a senior post in that newspaper. At the beginning, I was not really sure because, as I said before, I was not really super big fan of editorial. But then I thought, hey, is this newspaper? Come on, are you crazy? So I went there for the first interview, and then I went for a second interview, and then I went for a practical test, and then I went for a third interview, and everything was going great. And before I went for the final interview, and the lady that called me, she said that it was actually kind of a formality because I was basically already part of the team. But then I still wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. So I was talking with my brother, and he gave me a great advice. He told me about a job that he got before he finished his major to earn some money, also some expertise. And he did it for a little while, and when he graduated, he thought, what I really want to do is this other specialization. So he went on and tried to find a job in that specialization. But then everybody was telling him, well, yeah, but you already have expertise on this other thing. So why don't you go back to that? Because I need someone that has expertise in this, not in this. And when he finally found someone to hire him for a different expertise than the one that he had, it was not what he wanted. But then he thought, well, if I already have experience in two different things, it's gonna be easier to finally go to what I really want, right? They will not kind of put me in this box and not letting me go to other boxes because I already have experience in different boxes. And he did that for a little while, and then he again tried to switch jobs to something else that was what he really wanted. Long story short, he never succeeded at finding a job in that thing that he really wanted to do because every time was the same story. And he told me, if you don't want to work on editorial design, I would advise you not to start working on editorial design because you will get boxed and they will not let you get out of that box. So I ended up saying no to this big newspaper that offered me a job. I won't say that I regret it because I know for sure that I would have not been happy. But then again, I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I really wanted. So I continued to be lost a little bit. And after that, I was looking for a job in a few things that I thought might be what I wanted, but I was not 100% sure. And in the meantime, life happened. I love traveling and I love languages. And because life is like that, destiny happened. I learned from a friend of the family that the biggest airline in Mexico, Aeromexico, was recruiting, and they were not asking for you to already have the formation as a flight attendant because they were gonna be giving it to you. So I thought that maybe I could try because, I was still not sure what to do with the design thing, and I love traveling, and I thought I could take a break, try something new for a little while I decided what I really wanted design-wise. And I went to the recruitment event. I didn't make it the first time. I think I just didn't know what all of that was about. First of all, I showed up with my curly hair down, loose, big earrings, jeans, because I love jeans, a formal shirt and a coat. And when I showed up there, I saw that everyone was in very formal attire, executive attire, and all the hair pulled back in super perfect buns, contained tiny little earrings or no earrings, super neutral makeup. I was just standing out. I was weird. I did not fit the profile of appearance that they were going for. And then I remember I answered a couple of questions in a very silly way. So I think A plus B ended up in me not making it. After about a month, someone called me and they asked me if I could go the next day to the office. They didn't tell me for what. I had no idea what was going on. But learning from my first experience, I arrived there in a proper attire. I was wearing a very nice suit, and my hair was pulled back in a very nice bun, and small earrings and neutral makeup, and like everything was now perfect. We started doing some tests like psychological profiles and some English tests and some other stuff. When we reached the point where they applied to me, or they wanted to apply to me, an exam that I already took, I was like, sorry, I already did this test. Actually, I did a lot of interviews before. And they told me I was not what they were looking for. And then they told me, oh yes, but that was with the recruitment school, Alas de America. Now you are directly on selection process with Aeromexico. So don't worry, take your test and continue with the process. I was like, oh, so I didn't make it on the first cut, but I was kind of in the backup list. And now they called me because they didn't get what they were looking for. Interesting. I like that. And I made it. The second time I did made it. After that, I started with the training. Another day I will go in more depth about flight attendant, but I did the training and I just fell in love with it. It was amazing. So different from graphic design. Graphic design is about knowledge and information and what you can do with those two together. But this, it was just different. I don't even know how to describe it. But particularly the first aid course that we had to take, it gave me something that nothing else gave me. It was crazy. I just couldn't believe it. I found something that made me feel powerful, in control, and capable in ways that design never did. All the things that they prepared you for, emergencies, medical, and like crashing kind of emergencies. I don't know, all the training changed me somehow. I saw a different world. I saw a different me, and I liked it. I just fell in love with it. When I finally started flying, I just knew that I was not going back to design for a while. I just knew that this in between I find a job in design, in between I decide which branch of design I wanna go to, became something that I wanted to do more seriously. I just fell in love with it, and I knew, I think from the very first flight, that I was gonna stay there for longer, that it was not gonna be an in-between kind of thing. It was amazing, changed everything about me. So, will I ever go back to graphic design? Probably. Why not? I don't know. Life is crazy. Life is smart. I still love design. For example, in my Pinterest, I still have a board that is called The Designer is Still Inside Me. And I have all sorts of typography, designs, packaging, corporate design, and all sorts of things that I find sometimes that I like. It's still there. Even if I never worked at it professionally, I have made a few things. Presentation cards around here, some publicity around there, a logo here, an illustration there. I still try not to forget what I learned. I do not keep myself up to date in all the design stuff, but I am also not completely unaware because I love it. I still like it, and I'm still friends with these two people that I believe are the best designers I have ever met. My friend that I told you that was on El Mexico as an art design, and another friend that I have that he started his own company right after we graduated, and he's very successful in special effects and all sorts of 3D and post-production stuff. And I know that I am still good, rusty, but good. I know that I am a good graphic designer, but life just decided that I needed to follow other paths too. Who knows, probably in a few months or a few years, I will go back to graphic design and retake it like nothing happened. And actually, I am trying to apply as much as I can into my channel. I hope that you are enjoying my thumbnails. I hope that you enjoyed the illustrations that I made for the book review of last week. I will leave you the link over here so if you want to watch it. I would say that I miss graphic design, but I can't say that because it's part of my life still. Might not be my main career, but it's still part of my life, so I've never missed it because I'm drawing, designing, illustrating, and creating stuff all the time. But also, Flight Attendant opened up a new world to me that I didn't know I was good at and I enjoyed, which is customer service. But that is a story for another story time.